Right. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Today's guest is Mr. Jeffrey White. And Jeffrey has an extensive background in investing, stock brokerage, and he has some interesting ideas on some alternative approaches that the Black community might need to take towards creating wealth. He's by no means someone that is going along with the crowd. He's definitely got his own lane for himself and got some good recommendations on how we should maybe follow suit. Before we get started, Mr. White, if you could please just, let us know a little bit more about your background and what kind of gives you the qualifications for us to be listening to anything you got to say about investing.
That's right. That's the key. Sometimes people will talk, but they have nothing to back it up with. So I like to talk about things that I know personally. Again, I'm Jeff White, born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I now live in Tampa, Florida. I have a degree in business administration from Illinois State University. And for over a dozen years, I worked in the financial services industry. I worked as a stockbroker or a licensed financial advisor. And for those who understand, that is, I have my Series 7, my 63, my 66, and I also sold life, health, and variable annuity insurance. So I had a book of business. I worked with clients, helping them reach their investment goals, both short-term and long-term, selling stocks, bonds, mutual funds, options, college savings plans. And I loved it. It was a great experience for me. And I learned so much about how the financial markets work. And I also learned about, as you said, about different types of investments that are not in mainstream media that people really need to know about.
Right. That's awesome, man. And to present day, guys, just for everyone in the audience there, if you get to follow Mr. White on social media or subscribe to any of his services, you'll see that he is a modern day Renaissance man. So we had to work real hard. Like, hey man, let's narrow it down. We don't want to go over nobody's heads because we're gonna go down the deep end on getting this Black wealth stuff going. But Jeff he has his hands in a lot of different pies. He's passionate about fitness. I know, Jeff, you have a fitness company. You're a published author of how many books? Like 11 books, right?
11 books with 8 bestsellers, yes.
8 bestsellers. I mean, this guy has definitely got the credentials, right? And then he also has financial literacy courses. So obviously, hopefully, and we're going to post links to all of this stuff as well. So you'll be able to find Jeff, take advantage of any of his services. But this is definitely a guy that hopefully can give us some good guidance and some action steps on things that we can do immediately to start building that Black wealth. So just hopping into it, Jeff, what I've personally seen, man, and from people I've talked to, the current status of Black progress around the investment industry right now is we still are disadvantaged economically. So the average wealth of the white family is still about 10 times that of the Black family, which means we don't have as much disposable income or investable income to even get into the stock market. So for that reason, some people feel like it has failed us, at least those traditional methods. There are some promising signs, though. According to a survey done by Charles Schwab and Ariel Investments, around 30% of Black investors under the age of 40 got into investing just last year during the pandemic. So all of that to say that while we still have similar historical obstacles, things are maybe taking a turn for the better. Talk to us a little bit about your experience or your perspective of current level of Black involvement in the investing space.
Well, I see the excitement and I'm very happy to see it because we need to get involved with investing and making money in that aspect.
Absolutely.
You talked about how we're behind in a lot of different things. One thing that I noticed is we talk about how we have as a community something like $1.9 trillion in spending that we have available to us as African Americans. But the problem with that is a lot of that money is coming from being employees. We are being paid by someone else to work for them. So that's how we're getting our money. The real money is when you own the company. And then you can start hiring people that way. So it's very important that we get on the opposite side of that industry. So instead of just receiving that money from someone else, we can start making that money. And then that'll give us a lot more power and leeway as a community, because a lot of us, unfortunately, are just a snap away from getting laid off. But instead of being laid off, we need to start being the people who lay people off. Instead of getting hired and getting excited that we got hired, we need to start doing the hiring. And that is really going to help our community as a whole. Because if we can start hiring people, then we can start hiring our own, which is critical. One thing and we've all seen this in our communities, you go to any community in the country, and you can go to a nail shop, a gas station, and some restaurants, and they're owned by people who are not us. They're not us.
In our neighborhoods.
In our neighborhoods. You go inside those stores and they have employees who look like them and they don't look like us. And 9 times out of 10, they are speaking a language that we do not know. Now, I'm not mad at them for doing that because they are building businesses and they are hiring their own.
They're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So if they can do it, why can't we do it? Why can't we do the same thing, create a business, hire our own in our communities? That would be key to us coming up as a people. Now, when I do talk like that, I have a lot of people who will say, well, I don't want to own a business, so that doesn't apply to me. Then I'll say to them, well, would you like to work for someone who looks like you, who understands you, who will pay you what you're worth? Or would you rather go at a job where there's going to be a glass ceiling, who treats you less than, who don't want to give you those opportunities that you can get from someone who looks like you, who has the same agenda as you, who wants to elevate you because they want to elevate our people, not someone who just wants someone in these little grunt, fields or positions to make them rich. And they don't want to let you get raises and promotions. So when I ask them that, they say, well, that makes a lot more sense. So we have to start working as a community to help each other, period. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to do the hiring. I want to do that. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But I tell you what, I would give you opportunity at my job, and in many instances, faster than you may get in other people's. It's just that simple. So if we can do that in a variety of industries, we can change our communities within a generation.
That's true, man. And that's the task, right? And calls for buying Black and supporting Black businesses are not new by any means, but it still hasn't caught fire in a significant enough way to achieve that change that we know it can. And your words that you were talking about, Jeff, just made me laugh thinking about this meme I always see floating around. It's like, in quotations, I got the job, 373 likes, 15 reshares. But then someone's like, quote, I started a business, 4 likes, no shares.
That many likes? I thought it was only 2. That many?
Man, it's like, and I get that a lot. And everybody doesn't need to be an entrepreneur, right? Everybody can't do it. Everyone's not made for it. But man, we can have a whole other sermon talking about the tax benefits, writing stuff off. I personally feel like everyone needs an LLC at the least, or some type of business vehicle that can give them some tax advantages and protect them during annual tax return time. But everyone doesn't need to be a business owner. But to your point, everyone needs to support Black businesses. And here's the major key that gets me, man, not to go too off trail on the investment topic, but you talked about those other communities. They're typically Asian or Arab, and you go into their stores, like you said, you're going to see pretty much people that work like them. Nowadays, they've even decided it's okay that they hire lower price labor. So Hispanics, Latinos that have immigrated, so you'll see them working there, but you rarely see Black people. And then when you go into their communities, not only are there no Black businesses there, if they are there, I have a hard time believing that they would even support them, that they would even go to them. Why do you think that is? Like it's good for them to come and we support them, but that same energy is not, across the board when the roles are reversed.
It's business. I don't like it, but it's business. But as an entrepreneur, you should take that as a challenge. You should take it as a challenge to say, I'm going to create a product or service so good, it's going to be so good that you're going to just have to use it. You're going to have to have it because it's going to be a benefit to your life. That's the mentality that we must have. Don't come to me saying buy Black and your services is poor your quality is poor and it's overpriced. I'm not, slandering all Black businesses. What I'm saying is, don't say buy Black when you yourself are not putting out the top quality that we all deserve. When it comes to money, you have to come correct. You have to create that product and service that it's that wow factor. When people leave or have finished doing business with you, you want them to say, wow, that was fantastic. I have to tell my friends. I have to come back. And at the end of the day, the only color that really matters is green. And if you can do that, then people will come to you and support you of all races. And I'm a living witness to that. I've worked with people of all races, ethnicities, and I'm telling you, go out there and give it your best, be the utmost professional, and do not lessen your work or lower the quality because of who you think you're attracting as a client. That's the last thing you want to do. Do not disrespect your customers and your potential customers. Treat them like they're $1 million customers, and the people will come to you because people are on a budget and they're watching how they spend their money. And so they want to get the best for their dollar. And if you can do that, they will come to you no matter if they are Black, white, Latino, whatever. If the quality is good, they will come.
Fair enough, man. Like I say, so much more we could say on that topic, but we're going to leave that for another episode. So back to the investing, man. One thing that I noticed too while doing research is that Black participation in retirement accounts and retirement planning, like your 401ks, those are actually pretty much on par with white Americans. So that's a really encouraging thing to see. But again, when we talk about risk-based investing or even the cryptos and all of these things out here, we're so far behind. So if you're talking to someone who's thinking, hey, well, I got my 401k, I'm good, I don't need to invest in anything else. Like, what are some reasons why that alone is not enough to build the type of generational wealth that we are after, and they should still invest and branch out into some other areas? Why would that be?
It's simple. I don't want to work until I'm 65 or 70 because unfortunately, a lot of people will not save enough to retire on. You have to remember that. And there are a couple of things you must remember with your retirement. A lot of people, they think, well, I'm going to retire and I'm going to live happily ever after, him a little white picket fence and just, relax and live out my glory days in peace. Unfortunately, there are things that can wipe out your retirement savings in an instant. And the first one is sickness. A lot of people don't think about getting sick, but you can be one medical disaster from declaring bankruptcy. Medicine is expensive. Hospital visits are expensive. All these things can just wipe out your savings. Another thing is if you have to live in an assisted living facility, those things are expensive also. And last but certainly not least, what if you have adult kids or grandkids that you have to take care of on a retirement savings? If you live to be 95 years old, how long do you think your retirement savings is going to last? Is it going to last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? For the average person, it's not going to last that long. So you have to remember that and think, okay, I need to do something now that can help me generate money and generate revenue even when I'm retired. So the key for a lot of people is to invest outside of their 401ks and retirement plans so they can have money coming in. And also, after they retire, you still want to have some type of revenue coming in that is not related to the government, because there's no guarantee you'll still get government money. Nothing is guaranteed.
They're trying to get rid of it every single year, man.
Exactly. And one day they will. And it'll just happen to be the year that you retire. And you're counting on that money and it's gone. So the key for all of us is to start looking at how to build generational wealth. And that is done outside of the 401k. Well outside the 401k.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. It's when you think about it, it's I'm just looking at some data here. While you're talking, made me think about it. It said 33.5% of Black households own stocks in 2019, according to the Federal Reserve, as compared with 61%. Almost double that of almost white families had double that of Black families. So it's definitely a concern. It's an area that we need more reinforcement in, but people just don't have the knowledge. And to your point, some of the things that you and I talked about before, when people do learn about investing, they learn about stocks, they only learn about one thing. Some people, it's just the 401k, get that, put money in it, okay, you're good. And some other people might say, oh, you just need index, so you need mutual. But let's get into talking about some of those alternative methods. Like what else, just how big is the investing world? Because I think a lot of people have a narrow focus when they think about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna preface it by saying, again, like you suggested, Terrell, we're not taught this in school. We're not taught this in school. And a lot of times our parents didn't teach us this. Coming from the South Side of Chicago, I was taught how to survive. I was taught how to avoid the police and stay out of trouble. That was what I needed. Now I need to know how to save, invest in generational wealth. And unfortunately, my parents, grandparents, they couldn't teach me that. So I had to learn on my own. So we're not taught that in school, so we just don't know. The key is we have to learn. Now, as far as investing, what people do is they focus on the capital gains type of investing. And that is a thing you see with like the cryptos and the AMC stock and, GameStop. You see people say, well, I bought it, at this price. Now it's way up here. And they'll do the screenshot to show you how much they made. And they show you the chart of it going up. And that's cool, but that's capital gains. Mm-hmm. But what people don't realize is that's one aspect of investing. And the key to generational wealth is cash flow. So you got capital gains, you have cash flow. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was a financial advisor many years ago, this is back when the tech boom was really big, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And everyone was talking about the big new tech stock. It's under a penny, get this tech stock, it's going to shoot to the moon. And ironically, that's what you hear about cryptos right now. You hear the same talk of cryptos. But there was one broker, and all he did was bonds. And we called him the bond king. And he did not invest with stocks. He didn't care about none of that. He was just with bonds. And so one day I put him to the side and said, why are you always just, buying bonds for your clients? And he said, because my clients don't care about capital gains. They want cash flow. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, my clients invest in tax-free municipal bonds, and they are getting $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year from their bonds and their bond interest. And it's tax-free. So they're getting $50,000 a year tax-free, and they still have the principal of their bond. They're not even touching their bond. They're living off the interest. So I'm thinking to myself, so wait a minute. I'm sitting here watching the stock market every day, and if it goes up 5 cents, I'm going to have my clients mad at me because I missed the move. And these guys over here sitting back, relaxing, getting $50,000, $60,000 a year tax-free, living their life, and they still have their principal. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's a whole nother world out here I don't know about. I need to get in on that. Mm-hmm. And so, unfortunately, cash flow is not exciting. It doesn't get the news and the media attention that capital gains get. But if you want that generational wealth, you must learn how to get cash flow. And that is accomplished by buying assets, real assets that generate revenue for you, or they can hold their value also. Mm-hmm. So if the stock market crashes, guess what? You still have this asset over here and it's still making money for you. Stock market goes up, okay, that's great. But I still got my cash flow coming every single month. That is how you build generational wealth. Because wealthy people, yes, they may have some, money and capital gains, but they also have those assets that have that cash flow every single month that they've passed down from generation to generation to generation. And that is the missing link in our wealth equation: cash flow and buying assets. See, when things get tough, the average person, they talk about going out buying toilet paper, paper towels, and hand sanitizer and canned goods. You need that stuff. You need that stuff. But see, wealthy people, they'll go out and buy gold and silver and the cash and the paper towels. So that's the missing piece. You want to get those assets too. But again, it's not talked about in our communities or in our schools.
And one thing that you made a great point about talking about your backstory, right? Southside Chicago. I'm from Macon, Georgia, place that's been listed throughout the years is like typically anywhere in the top 20 to top 10 most dangerous cities in America. And I didn't realize it at the time living there. And it just what
Yes.
it was, right? And it's what you know.
Mm-hmm.
But so many of us come from a survival mindset that we don't understand what it means to thrive. We haven't even been talking about a life of thriving and how you're supposed to move and operate in that type of setup. So what you're saying is completely on the money, man. And you also touched on something else. Most people, everyone has seen those little memes floating around, or just heard the advice. It's almost like ubiquitous at this point. Oh, the earlier you start investing, the better off you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you invest X amount per month at age 25 versus age 30, then you'll be able to retire with X amount of money. Real quick, they're talking about 401ks when they're talking about that, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one vehicle. Another vehicle that I've seen is, hey, if all of a sudden you have, let's say, $1 million invested in the stock market, then you can live off of the interest every year. You're saying that only with like bond classes versus the capital gain stuff that's possible, or can you always? Because that's my goal as well, is to have a certain amount invested in whatever the vehicle is and just live off the interest each year as I continue putting money into the investment. So what vehicle does it take to get that effect?
Yeah, you can do that with stocks. You can do that with mutual funds. For example, I got my son invested or interested in stocks that pay dividends. And what I had him do is ask him, what do you like to eat? What toothpaste do you use? Little things like that.
Right,
so
right.
And what medicines do you use? Those companies pay dividends quarterly. They pay dividends quarterly. You can hold those outside of your IRA. So if that company is doing well and they're going to reward their shareholders, you're going to be a shareholder. You're going to get a cut of that money. So you're going to get a check, either direct deposit into your account. You can get it reinvested back into the stock to get more shares, or you can have a check sent to you. So you can also do that with the stock market. Now, what I want to stress to people is that the stock market is just one type of asset. And when people say they're diversified, they're thinking, okay, I got a growth fund, I have an index fund, I have a pharmaceutical, and I have a small cap. The stock market is one type of asset. And what you want to do is have true diversification. What if the stock market didn't exist? How would you generate money? How would you make generational wealth? That is the key, because if the stock market crashes, you could lose a lot if you don't understand how to, short the market. But that's a whole nother topic. But for the average person, they are fully invested in the stock market, but there are a lot of things going on in the world economy that can have a devastating effect on the stock market within the next couple of years that people are not following. So the key, yes, you can have your stocks and get your dividends from that and things of that nature, but you also want to have money outside the stock market. And what I want to stress to people is you can get generational wealth by creating your own assets or simply buying assets that are outside of the stock market. Let me give one real quick example. Now, this is like a dream of mine. We always see the story of the superstar athlete who buys his mom a car, or his mom a house. And we see that all the time. And I'm all for that. Don't stop doing that, please. We got to help each other, show the thank you and all that. But what happens to that car? Somebody got to pay that. If they got to pay a note, you got to, pay the maintenance on it. If you buy someone a house, are you going to pay the house off, or do they got to pay the mortgage? Who's going to do the lawn and landscaping? So someone's going to have to keep paying on that house. My dream, this is my dream. It's a silly dream, but it's my dream. I would love to see someone take their mom and stand in front of a duplex and say, hey, Mom, what do you think it is? Like, oh, it's nice. Yeah, you moving in here? No, this is yours. What do you mean this is mine? This is your duplex. You own this duplex. And these renters, they're yours. So every time they pay rent, they're going to be paying to you. I would love to see something like that. I would love to see someone pull up with their dad to a Popeye's chicken and they order And then they say, and the father say, thank you for the food. And the son says, no, thank you for raising me. And this is your business. This is your Popeyes. So I would love to see us buying real estate, rental property. I would love to see us buying franchises for our people, because that is how you build generational wealth. And that is a way to make money and employ people at the same time. So that's something I would love to see. Something, I like to think outside the box, but that is an excellent way to build generational wealth, because once that athlete, his career is over, guess what? You still got that rental property. You still got that Popeye's chicken or multiple franchises. And if you give that to your family, then you got people working and they're not begging you for money anymore. I mean, there's so many different things that we could do.
Major key. Hey, I got a job for you. I ain't got no money, but I got a job for you. So go
and this is yours. So it's up to you to build and cultivate this business. And they could say, well, I don't know how to run a business. Well, you don't know how to fix a car. What do? You go hire a mechanic to fix that car. You don't know how to run a business. You hire managers to manage the business for you. So it's all relative, but it's a mindset shift to building generational wealth and owning something. We have to start owning assets, and those are assets, true assets. And we have the money to do it. If we make 1.9 trillion in spending every year, we can put some of that 1.9 trillion and start building our own communities and buying some of these assets and businesses ourselves. Forget the banks. We can do it ourselves. If the banks ain't going to do it, what are we going to do with that 1.9 trillion? We can do something with it.
Here's the thing. How do we become such a consumption culture within the Black community? We are a culture of consumers, right? So what you're talking about is so foreign to most people, man. And I love to see that too. And, there's pockets of people around. There's hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. But when you talk about, 45, 46 million Black people in this country alone now, when you talk about having a significant enough shift to, let's say, even a quarter, a third of those people start doing that, I think that's enough to shift the rest of the masses. If we have that big of a shift with people, but it's like getting there just seems so daunting, because we got the historical impacts of how we've come to have this certain mentality, the level of wealth that we're faced with. And like you talk about, even when you get people who are in those positions, typically a lot of Black people who have money are in some type of entertainment. Oprah is an entertainer. Jay-Z is an entertainer. 2 billionaires. Michael Jordan is an entertainer, is an athlete. LeBron is an entertainer, right? So some of these people, like those that I named, do far better than most. But average, and me, I'm someone who played in the NFL, right? So the average guy that gets in and gets that big contract, he's not going to be on the level of a Jay-Z, Michael Jordan, or Oprah, right? Who've been millionaires for years and continue to refine it and get that knowledge. He is going to blow his money on conspicuous consumption, because he wants to, he places value in the trappings of wealth, like the appearance of wealth, instead of the actuality and the cultivation. So those are the people we need to figure out how to reach. And then of course you got the average everyday people who, again, it's like, I may not be buying Gucci belts and Prada, this, that, and the third, or driving a Ferrari, but yeah, I'm going and I'm blowing my money on, buying bottle service at the club, to look like I've made it, to get Jordans. So it's levels to it. And the consumption of everybody else's goods and services, not even Black-owned goods and services, it's pervasive throughout the levels, man. So we got a lot of work to do there.
Here's the deal. Like I said before, we're not taught this stuff. But see, it's conversations like this that can plant the seed. And we talked about this when we talked on the phone, when we had our last conversation. You may not understand what I'm saying right now. You may think, man, this dude, Jeffrey White, is crazy. I'm not trying to hear a word he says, but it's in your brain. Or you may be like, I'm not ready to hear all that right now. I'm trying to make my money, get paid it, and spend it. You may not like what I'm saying right now, but in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, something's going to click in your head like, you know what? I need to start thinking along these lines. You got to plant the seed. All we can do is talk about it now and tell people these different things and expose them to it. Because you got to remember something about the average person. The average person is resistant to change. If it's something they don't know or haven't experienced before, a lot of times they're going to be skeptical. They're going to be cautious. They're going to be suspicious. They may not be open to the idea, but that's okay. We're going to keep talking about it And eventually it's going to catch on. It's going to catch on because they're going to see there's a better way. Because a lot of times a person has to live life a little bit and get knocked around before they realize, okay, this ain't working for me. I need to find another way. This is it here. The key is to get them to see it before it's too late. See, a lot of times the average athlete, they'll make that money and we all know within 5 years they're broke. The key is to catch them before they get broke. So if they can take a portion of that money. I mean, if you want to go out and buy that Ferrari, I mean, I ain't mad at you. But please, before you buy that Ferrari, take some of the money and put it in an asset that you can't touch that's going to make money for you. And so when that asset starts to make money, why don't you buy the Ferrari with the money generated from the asset?
The cash flow from the asset.
Yeah, buy from the asset. If you take some of your money, buy you some rental property, save that, and you get that money every single month from that rental property. When you got enough, march on down to that Ferrari dealership and pay cash for that Ferrari with the money you got from your income from that asset that you still own. So now you done bought a Ferrari with the cash flow and you still have that asset that's still making money for you. See, it's little things like that. See, we got it backwards. We get money, we go spend it right now on something that's not going to generate any revenue for us. We buy stuff that loses money the instant we buy it. We got to get out of that. We got to start buying stuff that's going to make money for us regardless. So if you blow your knee out, that Ferrari can't help you. It can't help you. But that rental property, that franchise, those books that you wrote that are bestsellers all over the world, that's cash flow coming in. Those vending machines that you bought, that's cash flow.
Cash flow.
So it's a lot of little things you can do that people don't think about. Again, it's not sexy. It's not fun. It doesn't get the 1 million likes on Instagram, but that is what's going to keep you afloat, and that's going to make you money. Everything ain't got to be flashy. Everything don't have to be flashy. We
don't get that, man.
Yeah.
That's again, that's to us, that is how you express wealth and being well off. We don't understand it, man. And I mean, it's a blessing and a curse because you see on social media all the time, people are like, they'll put up Mark Zuckerberg next to Gucci Man or somebody and be like, this man's worth $1 billion. This man just is trying to dress like he is, but he's worth much, and I kind of agree with that to a certain extent. But at the same time, black folk, we got swag. You know what I mean? That's why the whole world is always mimicking our culture. So we got to find that balance between, yes, letting the culture and letting our dopeness, our swag still be what leads the world, but also put it in the right places at the right times. Because, sometimes you do need to walk around with no swag like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. It's okay.
Look at it like this. I like using the athletes as an example because it's very true. You can look at an athlete. All right, let's start from the beginning. The average athlete didn't wake up and become a pro athlete. They started when they were 5, 6 years old. They were playing every single day, all day, every day. Ain't no money made. They ain't getting no fame. And they just playing and playing and playing. They play through grade school. They play through grammar school. They play at night in the dark when no one's around, practicing their shot or lifting weights. They're not making no money then. They got that delayed gratification. They understand, I'm going to make it to the big leagues someday. Someday. They're not making money right now. They're going to make that money someday. You start making money, I'm going to get that Ferrari someday. Because first, I'm going to put my money's assets that's going to grow for me, and then I'm going to get it. So we know how to do delayed gratification when we want to. We just got to know how to shift it into other aspects of our life, especially when it comes to building generational wealth. We have to learn how to build generational wealth. And I'm tired of hearing people having to start over every generation. Every generation starts from ground zero. No money in the family. You got to make your own. No, we need to get past that. We want to build generational wealth. We need to start building it and passing it down. But when you pass it down, you have to explain how we got it, why we got it, and how we can build it. See, that's what our last name does. They explain how to build that generational wealth and keep that wealth in the family. That's something we haven't learned how to do yet, but we can. But again, we know how to do delayed gratification. We know how to be in the studio for 10, 11, 12 hours a day, working on tracks. We know how to be up all night trying to make the perfect beat. We ain't made no money off that beat yet. Then you got to put it out. Then you got to promote it. It could be another 6-7 months before you start making money on that beat. Delayed gratification. We know how to do delayed gratification, and it's the same thing when it comes to generational wealth. You don't have to. You can be patient. If you can be patient making that track and promoting your stuff and trying to get it out there, and it takes months to finally get that thing to hit, we can do the same thing with building generational wealth and buying those real assets, and then we can start swagging it out and flaunting.
I love that. I love that, man. That's literally like I could see a diagram or like an infographic with all of that, man. I've never heard nobody compare the average person delaying gratification and working on generational wealth with what it takes for a hip hop artist or an athlete to get to that level to where they are raking in the millions based on their skills. It's a beautiful thing, man. So we talked about some of the misconceptions with investing, like how people look at the stock market, even if they have a diverse portfolio within the stock market, that's still just one vehicle, right? Then you mentioned some things like gold and silver and real estate, right? And prioritizing cash flow and prioritizing assets that are going to continue to gain in value. We even talked about putting out intellectual property, like writing a book where you get that residual income. So all of this sounds great, but if someone is listening to this and wants to start going after some of these things, what are some of the pitfalls that come to mind when you think about things we should avoid before you try to get into any of those areas?
Knowledge. Knowledge is key. Study. Every night, I'm learning something new. I don't think I know everything. I will never say I do, because the day you think you know everything is the day you lose. You have to always continue to learn and grow and evolve, because the world changes. Can you imagine going to a doctor and they say, well, I graduated medical school 25 years ago and I ain't picked up a book since? Like, wait a minute, dude, things have changed. What do you mean you don't know? It's the same thing with you. The world is changing right in front of your eyes, and a lot of people don't even realize it with the budget deficits, and it's so many different things going on that the people don't know. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is very important, and then you have to have a goal in mind, and you have to be a forward thinker. You have to tell yourself, where do I want to be in 5-10 years? Do I want to be financially free? Do I want to be able to retire? Well, how can I do that? What are some realistic ways I can do that? You have to have patience. You have to be patient and know it's not going to happen overnight. This is why I like to give the example of the pro athlete. They didn't wake up one day and become a pro athlete. Do you think, Kobe just woke up and was great? No, he practiced every single day since he was probably like 5 years old. So it's the same thing with you and learning how to build generational wealth and become a savvy investor. You have to get off the message boards. You're not going to learn anything on the message boards. All you're going to learn is what hot stock tip or what hot mutual fund that someone wants you to buy, what, crypto. Get out there and actually listen to people who have done it and understand what it takes to build wealth. And it takes time. It's a slow process. And it's sometimes if you don't even have a lot of money, you can do a little bit at a time. It's a strategy. Everyone must have a strategy. And I'll tell you my strategy. I'll just be real transparent. I don't have rental property yet. I do not. But my goal is to have multifamily duplexes. I want to have some townhouses that I rent out to single families. Now, how will I do that? I'm going to use my gold and silver. I dollar cost average buying gold and silver, a little bit at a time. It slowly accumulates. And when the time is right, when I'm mentally ready and understand the ins and outs of real estate, I'm going to cash some of that in. I'm going to start buying rental property. It takes time for me to learn that. It takes time for me to learn it. It takes time for me to build the money to get it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So it's the same thing with everyone out there listening. Have a strategy and start learning and preparing, because you may not be ready right now, and that's okay. You may not be ready physically, mentally, spiritually, but that's why you get out there and practice and prepare. Same thing with the athletes. They're not ready to be a pro athlete. A high school football player is not ready to be a pro football player. You got to practice and prepare. Same thing with you and your financial fitness and your financial freedom and your generational wealth. You're not ready right now, but you will be if you start preparing. Because when the opportunity comes, you want to be ready for the opportunity when it hits.
What is the first step today? Because we talked about kind of generally get your strategy, right?
Yeah.
Learn, plus yourself up knowledge wise and get off the message boards, figure out those real sources of knowledge to get you going on the right track. What would you say is like a great all around first action step that people can do today to go down any of these paths, be it gold, silver, real estate, stocks, bonds, assets, and anything that we talked about? What is the best step one to do today?
The first step is to decide which way you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Which direction do you want to go in? Do you want to invest in the stock market? If you do, you should understand how the stock market works. You need to understand that past performance does not guarantee future result, and to learn the ins and outs of how the stock market works. It's knowledge and just figuring out what it is you want to do and learning everything you can about that asset or investment vehicle. So everyone does stocks. Everyone understands stocks. Understand the definitions, the terminology. Every industry has its own wording. I'm not into golf, but I understand you got par and all these different words. Same thing with whatever you're trying to get into. Learn the different terminology, learn the ins and outs, learn the ups and downs of that industry. And each industry is going to be different. Each asset or investment is going to be different. So you just have to sit down and learn, and then you got to remember what your goal is. And the key is to start small. Don't put your life savings into something you're not really familiar with. Start with a small amount, even if it's just $25, $50, $100, whatever's small to you. Put that small amount in and just sit back and watch and observe. Get a statement, get a balance sheet, get something and just watch. Like for me, I learned all I could about gold and silver and the history of gold and silver and why it's so important in the world and our economy. And I just started buying one silver coin at a time. And I started learning more. And then I started going on different sites and watching YouTube videos and where they explained it, not necessarily trying to give me some hot stock tip or things of that nature. It's all about just trying to learn. So sometimes you need to just sit back and observe whatever you want to go into and learn as much as you can and start small and then just, put your feet in and gradually build it, because this is a long-term strategy here. This is not a short-term, I'm going to make all this money in a week and then I'm going to retire and I'm going to post on Instagram and show I'm living large. No, this is a strategy that takes time to build and grow. Generational wealth doesn't happen overnight. So if you want generational wealth, why don't you sit down and learn as much as you can? So when someone asks you a question about it, then you can explain it to them in a rational way that they understand. If you can't do that, then you're not ready yet.
That's gospel, man. Mr. Jeff White, man, I really appreciate you coming by today, man, and dropping these bars, pun intended, gold and silver bars on us, and just letting us know, man, like it's a journey, man. It's achievable. There more than one way to skin a cat, and people just really need to get that knowledge above all. And it's going to be tough and it's going to take time, but I mean, everybody else who's acquired wealth has had a process to go through. So the key is to start and to figure out where you want to go and then plus up your knowledge in that field and then just put your money out there, right? Whatever small is to you, I like that as well, man. So tell the audience where they can reach you at, man. If they want to get more info or want to subscribe to any of your products, man, where can you be reached?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I got 2 pages on Facebook. I got Jeff White Fitness Solutions. And then I have the Yes We Did LLC. That's on Facebook. I have a website, yeswedidllc.com, where I have all my different products and books and online courses. Have an Instagram page, Jeff White Fitness. Have YouTube, Jeff White Fitness. I'm all over. For me, it's all about just trying to share knowledge and just try to help. My mother was a school teacher, so I try to teach too. I want to see us come up, because when I was an advisor, it exposed me to a whole new world. And I was like, wow, this is legal? People are really doing this? And I had no clue. I'm like 22 years old and I never heard of this stuff in my life. And this is like everyday knowledge to you guys, like it's second nature. Okay, there's a whole word out here I don't know. So I just try to explain it and help people because we need to come up and we can do it as a people if we come together and decide that, it's time.
Fantastic, man. Well, folks, let this be the day that y'all get started. Please, and any questions that you guys have, anything that we didn't touch on, but you wish we would have, trust me, if you've watched this far in the video, you can probably tell that this man knows what he's talking about. So I invite you, wherever this video is posted, put your comments in. I'll make sure that Jeff is tagged. And if I see it and he's not tagged, I'll get your questions to Jeff so we can get you the knowledge and the answers that you need. And, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode on investing in the alternative pathways. We'll see you guys next time.